We are in.
We are in.
Hey guys, last year's DV lottery winners will be announced in May of this year. It's very important to know the steps to follow after you've been selected. What is the process after you've been selected? And today, I have the pleasure of inviting back to our channel Nduti TV. You guys know him. He's been on this channel before. He is a green card winner through DV lottery. He is a content creator. He is fairly new in the US, about 3.5
3
years,
years.
3 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome back Joe Nduti TV to our channel. Hi, Joe.
Drum roll. Hi, Lucy Wangi. Thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure to come to your channel and share my thoughts and my experiences on life, Maju.
That's it. So, a lot of my fans, by the way, have been asking me where you went because we did a good 2 or 3 interviews together when I first started the channel. That was back, I think, in June. And for some reason, they think that I know where you are. So they kept asking me where you've been. So it's really nice to have you back and to share this content, to share our experiences here in the US for the new immigrants, especially for people who are also aspiring to come in here. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's been a while. The last time we spoke was last year, and then I went underwater for a while. I know most of your viewers think perhaps we are neighbors.
I
Yeah.
know.
Because if we are all in the States, sometimes the assumption is that we all know each other where we live, but we live in different states. I was away for work for a while, and after I came back, I had school and other things that I needed to take care of. So I needed to take some time off social media. Sometimes it's just difficult to juggle creating content. It's a lot of work, requires a lot of sacrifice, and I was just, I think, at a point in my life where I couldn't do content and at the same time kill all the other birds with the same stone on this other side. Um, but also it's important to mention to our viewers and any content creators who might be watching that don't be afraid to take some time back, take some time off to take care of yourself, physically, emotionally, mentally. So all those factors put together, now I was away, I come back feeling rejuvenated. I feel good. It's the sun is out, so I'm hoping to get back in the game 100%.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Today, you being a green card winner through the DV lottery, I have a lot of people asking different questions about the process. So, walk us through that process. And I have some questions from both my platforms that I'm active on, from YouTube and from TikTok. I have people with questions about the process. And since you know firsthand, you have the experience, let's start from the beginning. So, in May of this year, we're going to know who won and who didn't win. After that, after the excitement, oh, nimeshinda green card, all that, what
Right.
is the first thing that somebody needs to know? What is the next thing to do?
Well, from May 7th, to be specific, that's when the first list of people who've been selected will be announced. Then now that will go all the way through September 30th. So there are people who will find out on the 7th, others will find out on on June, July, and all that. But now the first thing, you will receive a letter that says, once you enter your code, your password that you saved during the application, and you receive the letter from Kentucky Consular Center that says you've been randomly selected, they will be very specific to say that this is not a visa. So, and then they will give you the next steps for you to take, which is filling out a DS-260. So a DS-260 basically is just a repeat of your profile of what when you applied, like what's your name, if you have kids, if you have a wife, and then on the DS-260 you'll upload birth certificates, documents, and pictures of the primary applicant and the dependents, or if you just the primary applicant just by yourself. So the DS-260 that's the most important document in this whole process, because That's basically what your interviewer will be looking at when they're interviewing you at the embassy. Anything you fill out in that DS260, you have to stick to that script the whole time.
Yeah, a lot of people confuse DS260 and DS160. The difference is that the DS260 is for the immigrants, the ones that are planning to migrate into the US and live here. The 160, the DS160 is a non-immigrant visa application form. So that's for F1 visas, temporary visas. So
Correct.
guys, bear in mind, don't mix them up.
Yeah, I have zero knowledge on the 160. I saw it online. I saw it somewhere. But the
Yeah.
good thing is, even for those people who are working on the DS 160, at some point, if they make it to America, they will still need the information for DS 260, because if it gets to a point where they want to convert their temporary visas to green cards, they will have to fill out the DS 260 for the immigrant visa. So yeah, it's good knowledge to have either way.
Yeah, I always encourage people to go to two specific websites if they want to gain knowledge about the US visas and the visa processes. One is travel.state.gov, which is the Department of State website. And then
Right.
the one is the USCIS.gov. So if you study those websites, by the time it's time for the visa interview, you'll be equipped with a lot more information that you did if you had that you would have if you had not attempted to research and educate yourself. It's very important that you mentioned that winning the green card lottery is not a guarantee that you're going to get a visa, and it's a guarantee that you'll be admitted to the US. Tell us about that.
Yes. And before I continue, I just want to add on what you mentioned about the US CIS. Everyone who's looking to immigrate to the States in any way at this point, they should have created an account, which is free of charge. So apart from reading their website, go in there, create an account. Anytime you're looking for information or applying anything, you have a history of what you're applying, of what you've been you've been attempting to apply, and that helps lessens the process and makes it easier for the people who are looking at your information. Having an account is crucial. But coming to your question, getting selected, I think there was the belief that once you've been selected, now I have made it. My dream has come true. No, remember, the green card, there are over 50 million people who are selected globally. It's not just in Kenya. It's not just in Europe or South America, in the Americas. It's like everywhere. In China, there are people who are doing the same thing that you're doing. So being randomly selected, it's not because you are highly educated or you are very popular. It's just a system generated selection. So once the system has selected you, that means the algorithm favored you and also that you followed all the steps during the application, because failure to follow the steps disqualifies most people. Now, at that stage is where the rubber meets the road. Now, filling out your DS260 and following up on those documents that they are requesting, sometimes there might be clarifications that they might need, because I think one of the lessons that I learned in the application and the US government in general is that documentation is very key. Your story has to be believable. If you say one thing in your application and you cannot back it up, that becomes a huge problem, and that's why they say we've been selected, but this is not a visa. So most of the challenges come during the presentation of documentation. But at the end, there are also concerns about the health factors or your medical history, which might disqualify you in the process. There are issues that will require money to follow up, that will require probably money, and their timelines. It's not like you have forever to accomplish that mission. You have like a very short period of time. And I believe the DS260, they give you a timeline by when you should submit it. If there are documents they need from you, they will give you again a timeline. So the more you probably you miss a timeline, because your case number, everything goes based on your case number. So if your case number is current, that means they should have everything they need from you, because at that time they are looking at your case number. Now, once you don't present those documents or details within the time frame, they got on to the next. And I forgot to mention, out of the 50 million potential selectees, there are only around 50,000 visas that are available from the State Department every year. So just imagine there's like, you are competing against all these people. So the faster you are in responding to communications, the better off you will be.
So get your stuff together. Some people win the DV lottery and then they're like, I don't have a passport. Like, wait. So
Oh yeah. Now that's
that.
like, I think before you, the moment you apply, during the waiting period, you should have already, even if you don't have a passport on hand, you should already have an application pending, you know, in the passport offices. Because I remember when I applied, I had like in Kenya we had the blue passport. No, is it blue? Yeah, it was blue, dark blue. This
That's
blue.
true.
I think this blue.
Yeah.
And then that was just for the Kenyan citizens. And then by the time now I was supposed to travel, there were changes that you need the green East African passport now, which is for Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, which is like lighter blue. And also when I was applying, it was not a requirement to have a passport when you're going for DS260. There were no requirements to fill DS260 passport. But by the time I was now starting the process, the State Department had changed that you need a passport to even continue the process. So if I did not have the initial passport, because it was easy for me to convert the old passport to the new one, I wouldn't have been successful, considering how long it takes for Jogo House to approve passport. So preparation, success is when preparation meets opportunity.
That's it. That's it. Let's talk about
Yeah.
police report. Is that something that is required for the DS 260, or is that required prior to going for the visa interview?
That's required prior going to the visa interview. So once you fill your DS260, you've attached the relevant documents. I think mine took at least 3 months later on. That's when they will ask, for example, if they have concerns about your high school education. No, actually, it's not even about a concern. During my time, it was mandatory for you to back up your high school education with a document from NEC saying this certificate is valid. So during that time, they will also request police clearance, which is due 30 to 60 days before your interview. Shouldn't have, no, 3 months before your interview, shouldn't have passed 90 days. So that you will be required to have that before your interview, so that they make sure by the time you go to the interview, you don't have any prior criminal history.
What about the medical part of it, the medical examination, the fees involved? Well, what do they look for when you go for the medical exam?
Well, for the medical exam, it's not your prerogative on what you should be tested. They already like have communicated to the, like in case of for Kenya IOM, on what they should be looking for. So vaccinations is usually a big deal. So for anyone who's watching this, having your vaccines prior before the medical exam is an advantage to you, because first of all, it will be cheaper for you during the medical exam. The medical exam is usually conducted by health organizations managed by the United Nations. So you understand that will be a very expensive venture, because that's a global entity, as opposed to you having your own vaccinations from your provider, which, or your local hospital, which is cheaper for you. I know most people have asked me before if being HIV positive is a disqualifying factor. The good thing is, as from 2010, that was removed from the list. So if being HIV positive right now will not disqualify you, though having active tuberculosis or any communicable diseases especially sexually transmittable diseases, STDs. That's a huge red flag. So they will look for any communicable diseases because they do not want you to be a risk factor in the US when you come here. And then they will also look for life-threatening diseases. So like if you have cancer, it's not a disqualifying factor, but there's a waiver. I think sorry, I think they call it class B something. If like you have a life-threatening disease, you'll have to get a waiver, provide documentation from your provider to show that you are under medication and it's been managed well.
I think also if you have a mental health, if you have a psychological illness that will pose a threat to you or to other people.
Oh yes, mental health is a very huge factor. Even after you come to the US, there are so many places you will not be allowed to work if you've had any previous mental health conditions. And I think the basis for all these visas and this all process is you're looking for an opportunity to go to work. So why should they give you an opportunity to go work if you're not mentally capable to hold a job? Because their fear is you becoming a public charge. Based on the UCIS, a public charge is someone who now will rely on the government for housing, for food, for basic needs. Yeah, they don't want you to come here and start saying I want my benefits, because now when you have green card, you will come here and you will be entitled to these benefits just like the citizens. So their fear is that you will come here, once you have those privileges, say now help me out. No, they don't want that.
All right. For the medical exam, we'll talk about families. If you have a family versus if you don't have a family, the medical exam cost, is it per family or is it per individual?
It's just by you're on your own. So if you have a family, be prepared to spend a lot. For instance, by myself, I spent almost 40,000 Kenyan shillings, which is an estimate of $350 at the time. So remember, if you apply as a family, there are so many things that as the primary applicant during the application process, they will only be looking at you as long as probably you presented birth certificate and all that. But when it comes to the medical part of it, remember, it's just that they're not just interested about your health; they're interested about the health of the other people that you're traveling with. So everyone else will be charged separately. But ultimately, if you have like me when I went, I grew up in the ghetto. So when I went, I did not have like all these vaccination records, any medical history documentation to show. I have never been in a hospital. I didn't have anything to show. So when I went there, it was the first time they are doing anything on me. I had never had an X-ray, had never had anything done on me. So I had to pay all these costs because I didn't have anything to show. But even if you have a family, and especially you have kids, and you have when they were born, all the vaccinations that they've had, and if you have all that it will still be cheaper for you as compared to just going in there and saying, I'm all yours, do as you please. Yeah.
So we are now getting to the cost of the DV lottery process. This thing is not cheap. People feel like, okay, I've won the DV lottery and now I'm good to go. Everything is free. They'll pay for my flight. They'll pay for this and that and that. Let's break down some of the costs that are involved, starting with, okay, the application itself to enter is free.
Correct.
After that, let us tell us, what do you have to pay for?
Well, the application is free. After that, I'll just maybe start with the miscellaneous expenses. And this is either you have a computer and Wi-Fi at home, or you're depending on external services. And there are people who pay lawyers because they don't want to mess up the process. There are people who actually, even the process will ask you, if you need a lawyer, you can do that to help you. But you have at the end to state on the DS260, because it will ask you, did anyone assist you in making this application? If you say yes, you have to provide the information. In fact, there are people who will even be accompanied by lawyers to the interview. They allow that. So that's an expense you can choose. But let me speak to the individual who's just doing the process on their own. The miscellaneous expenses comes into the verification number one of documents. If you need to go to a certain office to request for a verification of a document, just like local county government services, $100 here, $50 here, $200 here. Those are things that you'll have to do. Personally, I had to verify my own even birth certificate. I went to my county of birth and they had to pull a document from the 90s and say, yes, this birth certificate is for this individual. So those are travel expenses. Those are miscellaneous expenses. If you have a passport, that's good for you. The medical is one of, now the major expenses is the medical. And then if you go for the interview, which is approximately $400 per applicant, which at the time,
guys,
applicant, yes, yeah, and at the time they're still telling you this is not an assurance. And I've had people who've mentioned that, hey, my friend, or I know someone who just went to the counter and they did not even look at them twice. They were just told no, no, no. And I thought, why would that be? Because someone, and especially with the United States, they follow the law to the letter. They will not just push you away, just, you appeared and tell you go. There has to be a reason. And one of the reasons, apart from failing to provide the other documentation, I suspect it's the health part of it. It's important for you to have your own medical examination before you even go to the main medical exam, which is usually allocated or assigned to you through the embassy. So you just don't show up at IOM, say in Nairobi, without the embassy giving you the appointment. So perhaps they find something in your system. The problem is they won't tell you the results. The results are usually sent to the embassy. Okay. So imagine you paying all these costs. You've even paid the medical and the interview cost. Then you get to the counter. They look at your file. They find you have syphilis, for example. That there will not even be one conversation. That will be just a clear no. But assuming that everything goes through, okay, you've paid all this cost and the interview went on well. Now you have your visa. Now you have to plan. Oh, and by the time you get your visa or you go to the interview, the other hurdle is you need a document from someone who lives in the state, which shows that they will be responsible for you when you get here, a host, an affidavit of support. So that once you get your visa, now you have to start thinking of how to get a flight, and in the DS-260, there's a drop-down arrow that asks you of the address that you will travel. I thought that they will even give me a house when I get to the US. They will give me a job. They will give me all these things because they ask you. I'm like, I've never been to the States. Why are they asking me? So I clicked on the drop-down arrow. What I selected, I was just like, I was spoiled for choice. Do I want to go to California? Because I'm thinking they will just be.
They will do it for free.
Yeah, for free. Me, I said, I want to live in Washington, D.C., near the White House. So I searched White House, Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay, which is the closest street near Pennsylvania Avenue? I chose that, thinking that they will come and pay for me a house. So, and if you don't have a host, that's another expense, because apart from booking your flight, which most of the time, and this is surprising, for one way, like for instance, right now, if I want to travel to Kenya, surprisingly, I would pay an estimate of $1,000 to and fro. Now, for one way, because if you have a green card, it's a one-way trip. You don't have to pay to and fro. Surprisingly, these airlines know that if you have a green card, you're not coming back. You will pay your flight will be almost the same as a to and fro. So we are still talking about 800, depending on the flight, to $1,200 just for the flight per person. So all this calculation is as an individual.
The reason why I'm insisting per person is because of the questions that I'm getting of people assuming that these fees are like a family. It's not a package. It's per person, and it's important that we mention that most of these fees are non-refundable. So regardless of whether or not you get the visa, you still have to pay this amount and you don't get it back. So when they say, for example, now coming back a little bit, when they say, for example, when you're completing the DS-260, when they say that the picture has to be a certain requirements and specifications, please have that the way they want it, because that is a ground for disqualification, and then you're going to lose your money.
Yeah. And most people don't like, just following that instruction is very important, and especially with something that gives you a specific measurement, you would rather go to someone who's well knowledgeable about traveling, visas, and all that, that will take that picture with the specific measurements. Personally, I had to go like to a company that specifically does photography for passports and traveling, because they know, if you tell them I'm applying for green card, this is for the green card, they know specifically. But if you just, the first time I applied for green card was in 2015. The instruction says you have to get a picture this, from this part of your body upwards. It has to be on a clear wall. So I did that with my phone. I set my I set my phone, and then I cropped it, and then I went and tried to fit that picture on my phone. I tried to fit those frames. That's a complete
Well,
mistake, disqualification. Yeah.
you make it easy for them to deny you the position, the visa.
Yeah, and like they are overwhelmed. They have a lot of people they are looking at. So one mistake, just they move on to the next person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about families? Let's say, for example, I'm just going over the questions. I had written them down because it's
Okay.
you. So somebody asked if you didn't have kids prior to completing the DS 260, and that between the time that you applied for the green card and the time that you're going for the interview, can you add your child to the DS 260, and what do you need to go to the embassy with as proof?
Okay, so say for example, when the applications are open, you applied as a primary applicant, and it was just you as a single person, and that's between, say, in November. That between November to May, in between there, you get married or you have a child. In the DS-260, there will be a question that will ask you specifically: has anything changed since the time you applied to this time in terms of your family setup? If you say yes, are you married? You click yes. So any answer that you answer, you have to back it up. So if you say you're married, they will ask for marriage certificate. If you say you have a child, they'll ask for birth certificate and the photo of the child. And especially with children, they will ask for a photo of the child. For the wife, they usually ask for, or husband, they usually ask for marriage certificate. But for children, they're very, very specific about children. They will ask for the birth certificate and a photo of the child. That's during the DS-260. So assuming, again, something has changed between DS-260, which I'm assuming the DS-260, you will do it right away in May after you've been selected, or say early June, because some people find out in June. So say between May and during your interview, which the last day is 30th September. In between, before your interview, something again changes. You get married and you have a child. I don't know. Let me speak on my behalf. This is like a one life, one time. This is an opportunity that will never come around again. So the more you introduce more concepts, the more you introduce more information, the more it becomes complicated for you, and the more it slows down your process. After the DS-260, pray to God nothing changes, because after DS-260, now DS-260 is it's like you have an exam and it's your mark sheet. No, actually, after you fill your DS-260, it's your Mwakenya. Yeah. After you fill your DS-260, read that document every day like a Bible, because the person who's interviewing you, most of the time they're not even looking at you. They're looking at the computer. And by looking at the computer, they are comparing what you said versus what you are saying now. And they're also looking at your medical records, criminal records, and all that. So I would strongly recommend, that if something changes between DS260 and interview, it will be a longer process and a more expensive process to introduce new dependents, because it will slow down your process. Now, think about this. Once you get to the US, you have your own green card. It's not the end of the road. At that time, you can go back now to the UCRS website and say, hey, I have a child, I am married, and present that document. At the time, it will not be, you'll already have had your visa. So the DS260 is like what they look at. If anything changes here in between, if you're willing to go through the process again, you can do that. But in my opinion, it will be very expensive, and it's a lot of work for them. Remember, you're not the only applicant. So, you just cross the river, get to Canaan, and Kesi Badaya.
Somebody asked, what is 2NL? And what is that, and when do you get that?
Honestly, I don't know what's a 2NL. I usually hear about it, but I never had a 2NL.
Okay.
Is it the one that you're being denied?
And interview, how many interviews do you get when you're going for the, do you get like just one notification from the, okay, let me back up. When you are selected as a winner,
Right.
you get a notification via email, right?
No, when you're selected, you log into the system using a password, and
Okay.
then now you get the letter that says you've been selected.
Okay, so that's the first letter. And
Yeah.
then after that, how do they communicate to let you know that an appointment for the visa has been scheduled?
Well, so after you've been okay, first let's start from the beginning. It's May 7th.
This May 7th.
You've gone to the website, state.gov, and checked your results, entered your password that you've said for almost 1 year. And now the letter comes, you've been selected. Inside that letter, there's a link that will send you to KCC, Kentucky Consular Center. On that link, now you will provide your email address, which will be your main form of communication. Now, they will even say, we need some documents from you. Please provide us with an email address. So that's the first time I think you will introduce your email address. Yeah. So everything now, the email address that you introduce, that's the mode of communication all through. Even in terms of correspondence, documents, they will be using that email. Now, even like your appointment to the medical checkup, your appointment to the medical checkup will be communicated to you through the email, and say you have an appointment on this date, and send you the appointment. So when you go for the medical checkup, you will present that document from the embassy and say, hey, I have an appointment, here's my document. They will check on their records and see, yes, they were expecting you. After the medical checkup, your results will be sent to the embassy, and then at that time it's just a waiting game. So after your results have been sent, the embassy again will schedule another appointment for you and say, hey, come to the interview at this time, at this day and at this time. So when you go for the interview, it's either you get your visa first time you meet the person, you get partially denied, perhaps because they are missing some information from you, or they don't have a clear picture about your case. They want to clarify something, or you get denied, fully denied. So I think what you're asking about at 2NL is when you get partially denied, they're seeking clarification, more clarification.
Okay.
Is that the case?
I think I have to look it up, but I feel like it's a letter, the second letter to
That
go
says
visa, to go for the visa interview. Because the B1, B2 visa, the difference is that you have to schedule an appointment yourself. You have to schedule the visa appointment as opposed to the green card visa where they call you, they assign a date and time for you. So I thought that 2NL, my suspicion, my guess is that the 2NL is the letter that notifies you that your interview date. But
So
we can
I'm looking it up as well. The second notification letter, 2NL, is the letter that you receive sometime after you have filled and submitted your DS-260. It shows you your interview appointment details. When you applied for the DV lottery successfully, you check the results using the confirmation number, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So this one says, now I don't know, because my process was a little bit just different, because actually, like, even for me going to the medical, I know before you go to the interview, you have to, they send you a link on how you can, on where your passport will be sent after the interview. Okay. So once you fill out that document that says you choose, do you want it to be sent to Mombasa, Nairobi, Kisumu? If it's Mombasa or Nairobi, which location? After that, that's the information that they will use to schedule your interview because of the location. But I never had a 2NL. Honestly, I have zero information about this. All I know, I just had communication about, hey, you're due for your medical. This is your medical appointment. And then after the medical appointment, they will send you a link on where your passport will be sent, because at the time, I think during the medical appointment is when you submit your passport. I'm not so sure. And then you never have it back until after the interview. So
how do you know when to go for the interview? How do they send you that information?
Through your email.
Through the email.
Through the email, yes. And that comes after your medical, because after your medical, they will send you, first of all, a link on where you want your passport to be sent. Right. Now, based on the information you provide, say you're in Kisumu, they will say, on Kisumu, we have these locations, Kogalo 1, Odur 2, and all that. You say Odur 1. Now, based on that, they will say, this is where your interview will be if they have a consular office, say, in Kisumu. You're in Nairobi. For me, I chose Gigiri. There's a, what's this company that sends for sending money back and home? Is it DHS or
DHL?
DHL. So there's a DHL office along Gigiri, that area. So I said, I want my passport to be sent to Gigiri. Now they knew, this guy actually lives in Nairobi, he's accessible. So based on that information, they invited me for an interview in the Nairobi office. So it depends on the country that you live and the locations, consular locations in that country. Some countries have different offices in many places, but specifically for Nairobi, they will give you different locations where you want your passport to be sent. If that location is closer to the Gigiri embassy, you will be invited for an interview at that office.
Okay. Yeah. At what point do you do your biometrics, and do they charge for that? Is it a separate fee for that? Your fingerprint?
The biometrics are part of the interview fees. So that's during your interview, just before you guys start having that conversation, they will take your fingerprints, and they will match what DCI, for example, in Kenya, provided versus now what they are seeing on their records. Because even like for the US in general, they have like a list of criminals and wanted people globally, and they have their fingerprints. So if if you can pass the fingerprints at the embassy, you're not on their list. you might be safe in Kenya, but they've been looking for you for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we've completed the interview process. We have passed the interview. Your visa has been sent to you. Your passport has been stamped. You have received your visa. Mm-hmm. There is another fee that you should be prepared to pay. I believe it's called a visa issuance fee or some green card fee or something like that. Do you remember paying for that process for the green card?
No, the last money that process ate for me was was the interview.
Okay.
For the interview, so this during my interview, because I had like some challenges before I got my green card. So I went for medical like today, and my interview was tomorrow. So there was no ample time for the embassy to wait for my results before they invite me for the interview. Normally, when you go for the medical, there's usually like a 1 week difference before your interview. They already received your medical, now they call you for the interview. So when I went there, I passed all my interview, but I could not be given the visa because, they could not tell me that I've passed because they had not received my medical results from the facility. So they gave me the yellow document. I'm not sure what it's called, and she said, "Well, this is going to be a little bit weird. At this time, we cannot approve your visa. So this is like a document that says it's pending for now. But keep on checking on the website. You can see later on after it's approved or denied. You can see on the website.
Okay.
So keep on checking. By the end of the day, we'll receive your results and update." So later on in the day, I checked. I was approved, and that's it. I went for my passport. I think after a few days, I opened my passport now to see for real. I saw my visa was in there. That was it. I never had any interactions with them. I just went and started booking my flight. So I'm not sure. Perhaps it's a different visa category, but for green card, I'm not sure if there's a green card fee.
Okay. That's good to know
Yeah.
because you already paid a lot of money.
Oh yeah, yeah. Perhaps in other types of visas they would ask for a visa fee or something, but for green card, once they put it on your passport, they will give you 6 months to leave the country. After 6 months, the visa has expired.
Okay.
Yes.
So there is a section at you on USCIS or .gov that advises people not to sell their property, not to quit their jobs once they win a green card because the process is long. Let's talk to us about that. And
Oh
there's no
yeah.
guarantee also.
It's possible to be excited, and now this is very, I would be the wrong person to speak about this, because if I speak about this, most people will not understand my thinking, because it's crazy. Me, I went into this process all in, like all my bets were in. Like in fact, at some point, when I was exchanging communication with the embassy, I told them straight up, if I don't get this opportunity, I'll be devastated for life. I was like, this, I've worked so hard for this. All my eggs are on this tray. If I've done everything, if there's something I'm missing, yes, you don't give me the interview, the visa. But if I've done everything according to what you asked, honestly, if I had not gotten the visa, I would have been a chokora, because I used all my I used all my savings. Like I used everything. Like I sold everything, every important thing that I had. I left my job just to concentrate on that. But I think they usually say, don't sell your belongings, don't leave your job, don't do that, because of the possibility. There are high chances of you being selected and not getting a visa because of the rigorous process. And
Mhm.
I came to realize that there are people who, for some reason, just have bad luck,
Mhm.
or their parents did not prepare them earlier on in terms of documentation. Because imagine you are called Lucy Wangoi Mwangi when you are 10, and then when you're 25, you are called Lucy Mwangi or something else. Now, those minor challenges with names, with birth certificates, with high school documents, the people that you're married to, and if you have children, the information for your children. Now, the discrepancies, those I know are usually, the United States is very specific. They really want to know you for you, and if they find something that goes a little bit around the corner, you will be going back home. So I think they insist on that because there's a high chance that you will not succeed. And it's possible to get excited to say, hey, I've been selected. Bye bye, everyone. Now I am going to the US. No, only sell your belongings after you have your visa and your passport and you have a flight. You already booked your flight, you know you're leaving, if you have to sell your stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the host. Somebody asks, do I need to have a host before completing DS-260?
No, you do not have to. During the DS-260, they don't require you to provide any host information. It's good to be prepared and to have spoken to someone earlier on in advance to request them if they can write and the affidavit of support. But during the DS-260, I was a lone wolf at the time. No one knew about what I was doing, so I just applied and sent the DS-260. So the affidavit for the host will be required before your interview, and they will send you a link on where the host will go in. Like if I'm in the US right now, they will send a link on where I will go in and fill out and say, hey, I know this person, I will support them, blah 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 blah. So when during the interview, they will be looking at the application that I made from the United States on the system. But during the DS-260, it's not a requirement. It's good to be prepared, but it's not a must. That will be required during the interview. Even during your medical, still they don't care. They don't just care if you have a host or you don't have a host. But during the interview, they will insist that you tell them where you're going and who will host you for the time being.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got the interview, we got the visa, we have sold our land, we've told everybody goodbye, and we are traveling. So we are here in the US now. The port of entry, everything checks out. We are in. If you have a host, we've been hosted. We are here. So what next? When do you receive your green card? When do you receive your social security number?
And that I think I have a friend in Arizona who we had that conversation when I first came. And in the instructions, after you've received your visa, they will send you like a welcome to America package. A welcome to America package will have this long document with the US life, the US states, the US constitution. They will send you like as a new green card permanent resident. So just to familiarize yourself. And then on the document, they will also say you do not need, and it's also captured in the DS-260, you don't need to reapply for a social security number. It will be sent to the address that you provided, like where you will land. So it will be sent there, your social security number and your green card. But when I landed, the first thing that my host told me, he said, no, go to the Social Security website. Perhaps you can post that on the comments before later on. He said, go to the Social Security website and apply for a Social Security number, because now you're like a child who has been born in America. You're fresh. The Social Security office will receive your information later on from KCC, and now start preparing your social. Your green card, and your social now determines your green card. So without your social, you can't have your green card. So, and because of that, so the second day I was in America, I went in there and I applied for a social. In 2 weeks, I had my green card and my social. 2 straight weeks. The third week, I had a job. I moved from Florida to Virginia. I started working. Within the first month in the US, I was in a job. Within the first 5 weeks, I had received my first paycheck. And most people that, because before you come to the US, you will find so many people at the embassy, at the medical checkup, and you'll make friends with people who are traveling. And most people that we arrived at the same month or during the same period, they were like, "Hi, bro, how did you get your social so fast?" And I was like, "No, I applied for the social." So I feel like to be on the safe side, it's easy for you if you inform them, "Hey, I'm here. I am," because when you are applying, they will ask for your passport number and all that information so that they can check with the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and say, hey, once they check with the DHS will confirm, yes, this is a permanent resident who just came. They came on this day, so we know them. So they will start working on your stuff even way before they receive your stuff from KCC. So I feel like it's important for you to apply. Of course, the document will tell you don't have to, but I feel because my host informed me to apply area loan, I got my stuff too soon. I know people who stayed 3 months before they got their social and their green cards. Imagine unakaa tu, you are just with your host and there's nothing. You're just there waiting. You can't move. You can't open a bank account. You can't do nothing.
Yeah.
So I think it's advisable for you to kujituma, like start making those baby steps once you get here.
All right. So now we have our social security number, we have our green card. What are the benefits of having a green card, of coming in through the green card way, as opposed to with another, like a visitor visa, and then overstaying your visa and trying to figure out how to be, under the radar and work at the same time, which is not allowed, guys. So, what are the benefits of having a green card?
Well, before we even talk about the benefits, I'll just be straight up with you. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, and to whom much is given, much is expected. Now you
Right.
fought a good fight. You've done the right thing. You've come to America and you have your green card. All that process was because you wanted to come here and work. Now you have the document that allows you to legally go out there and say, hey, give me a job. Now, the benefit is whenever you apply for a job as a green card holder, the process is almost similar to as a citizen, an American citizen. You have a social security number. That means you have access to more opportunities. As opposed to someone who came with a different visa, they cannot legally apply for certain jobs that specifically require you to be either a permanent resident or a US citizen. So now you have this opportunity. It's upon you now to go out there to look for jobs. The advantage is if you are willing and able, you will get a job straight away. You can get a decent job. You of course don't have your expectations too high. Perhaps you are a professor or a lecturer or someone popular in Kenya or in your own country, and you want to rise through the ranks that fast. But the good thing is you and the person who does not have a green card or is not a US citizen, the opportunities that you can access they are unlimited. So the good thing is you will not lack. But at the same time, who much is given, much is expected. That means you are part of the system. You are paying tax, and they expect you now to walk the talk. You said you want to come to work. Now get to work.
Okay. So
Yes.
I think we've covered a lot of information, and I feel like we've covered all the questions I'm looking. What advice would you have as we close the conversation? What advice do you have for winners of this year, the ones that are expecting to win this year, and
Mhm.
all the ones that are looking to apply in 2025? Yes.
It's going to be a very lonely process, very difficult. There will be tears, there will be a lot of stress. It will require a lot of commitment. Actually, it will require you, if you are applying or you've been selected and you're in the waiting period, it will require you to only focus on that one thing, or something will pass you. Like I remember, you will not find me on WhatsApp, Instagram. I was on my email 24/7. I'm on my email because I don't want to miss communication. So it will be a lengthy process that will require a lot of self will. It's just like a lot of sacrifice. It will be very hectic. That's the whole truth. It's not simple. It's not rosy. It will take everything because you want to change your life. You want to make a difference for your family, for your future. So this is something that you will have to go all in, like think, dream, eat, read, and read a lot of research. Like having information is key. I was this close to missing this information had I not been on that state.gov website and USCIS websites. I was this close because in one of the communication, I quoted something from their website. So they know if you have the information, you can do anything. So only do your research, keep up with the request or the communication that they're asking of you. And if you make it to America, now welcome. This is where I would say, in my opinion, gets real. So you will be presented with so many opportunities. Take the bull by its horns, and it will be good. It will be bad. but it will be worth it at the end of the day.
It's always a pleasure having you on my channel, and you're welcome to come back anytime. We have so many topics that we can cover as we continue to navigate our way in this foreign country. And I know that people have been asking for you, and I know they'll be excited to see you on this channel. But where else can they find you?
People can find me on Nduti TV on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. Everywhere I'm on Nduti TV, where I run a program famously called Life Maju. Right now, we are about to post episode 141. If you've been on my YouTube channel, you will see my journey since day one, telling you about my experiences between episode 1 to episode, say, 100 and something. I'm still finding my way around and, just doing random stuff. But as we go on, I'm trying to show you how, as an immigrant, you can come in and how you can just start life. I'm just documenting, say, the process. So that's where you can find me, Nduti TV, everywhere. I live in the East Coast, Virginia. If you're in the US, in the East Coast, let's link up and do something as well.
That's right. Let's all, these content creators in America, the Kenyans or African content creators, let's come together. Let's share our ideas. If you have somebody that you can host on your channel, just host them, because everybody's point of view is different, and sometimes
Right.
two heads are better than one. So thank you so much, Joe. It's always a pleasure. Today, we've been talking about the steps to follow after you've won the DV lottery. So make sure you watch this video all the way until the end. If you watch the video all the way until the end, thank you so much. Don't forget to share this video widely so that people can know these processes, because lack of information and ignorance is no defense when it comes to applying for this visa and getting qualified for it. The fact that you don't know something is not an excuse for you when you go to the interview. So make sure you equip yourself with all this information. Thank you so much, Joe Nduti. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Adios.